I am what I am. I would like right now for all of you to have a moment and think about an intention that you would like to leave with after all the music, the message, and the prayers. So if you just close your eyes for a moment and think a quality of spirit, a quality of God that you would like to leave with today and carry with you. One of healing, one of love, one of joy. So do you have it? So now, there's so much breathing here. I would like to do 3 intentional breaths, so I invite you to do that with me. Let's breathe in, hold, and release. Breathe in, hold, and release. Last one. Breathe in, hold, and release. This morning is a fabulous topic. I'm the 5th Sunday of the month, and Reverend Elijah and Reverend Grace have held the light for the last 4 weeks. The topic today is celebrating the source, celebrating your life as the source, while surrendering into love. That's a big mouthful. And I think surrender has gotten a bad rap, okay? There's a big difference when we surrender into defeat or we surrender into something that is the greatest force in the world, which is love. And each great tradition talks about surrender into something greater than ourselves. So, to acquiesce, to surrender, why is that so powerful? And it's because of this. Surrendering into love, something greater, is the only force strong enough to take down our ego. And that, many times, is what we have to do on a moment-to-moment basis. And I've said this up here before, how important it is, because when we, and Amy alluded to this in her class that she's going to be teaching, that when we hold a set of beliefs, that is not what we're about. There is belief systems. There's 8 billion people on the planet right now, and there's a belief system in every one of those 8 billion minds and hearts. It's about a set of practices to something that is greater than ourselves. It is that ache in our soul for connection and belonging and a relationship with Spirit, God, whatever name you have for that mystery that's inside of you. For while we're in these human forms, the most important thing for everyone, no matter what their challenge, what their wish is a sense of belonging and a sense of connection. And yet, we seek that, but we are that. And many times, I think we're here in this mystery to unfold it. And, you know, Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is within. Buddha said, if you light the lamp, be it to your own feet, because that is where the truth lies. And I think the most important thing for me is that all these perceptions get in our way, all these things that we desire. If we really sit with ourselves to see what is behind the desire of wealth, the desire of health, the desire of love, it is to connect, it is to belong, and it is to connect with that thing in our soul. And many times we try to do it here, and the longest road is from here to here, because this is where we find it. And I always say, God speaks in a language without a tongue. It's a universal language, and it's one of sense, of intuition, of feeling. And yet we run from that because it's uncertain. We run from surrender because it somehow gets the defeat. We run from the things we want because sometimes it's scary. It's going into the unknown. It's trusting. It's trusting in something bigger than ourselves. So I was fortunate enough a few weeks ago to be in Paris, California, at a monastery and a temple, a Buddhist Vietnamese temple. And as I was staying there, it was very, very beautiful. The gardens were very beautiful. And it was a day that had no rain, so that was really nice. And the Sangha is what they call the community. And the community pays for everything. This big, huge house that's turned into a temple. And it's very sparse. You know, they have folding chairs with colorful tablecloths and folding tables. And then they have beds, mini little casitas, I call them, or little she sheds, he sheds on the property with a bed and a sleeping bag. And then they have their sanctuary where there's statues of Buddha, Kuan Yin, and they do their meditation and their devotion. And they eat together. The men eat at one table, the women eat at another, because this is the monastery for women, for nuns. And the Sangha, the community, they do all the work around. They tithe so that the payments for the home and the food are provided. And these people devote all their time to meditation and devotion for the relationship to something bigger than themselves. And they trust that the community will provide that. And I thought that was beautiful to see how that trust was demonstrated. And I think, for me, it's so important to start thinking about what it is we're really trying to discover in this life. Things are wonderful. Money is wonderful. Relationships are wonderful. But we get disappointed because we forget to reflect back and do some deep work within ourselves. And that work is finding a relationship that's bigger. And one of the things that was said by Joel Goldsmith in one of his books last night I was reading said this: Spirit, God, knows me as itself. If that's true, all possibilities are within each and every one of us, because we are part of the source. And we are here to celebrate our life as source and to surrender into love. What does that look like? It looks like aligning our thoughts and our ideas and our mind with something higher, with love. The agape love, and also the friendship love, and the eros romantic love, all love. But the biggest one is the one that we have within our own spirit and our own soul. So I invite you right now to put your hand on your heart and repeat twice with me. Spirit, God, knows me as itself. Ready? Spirit, God, knows me as itself. Once again. Spirit, God, knows me as itself. So I want to share a story about prayer, because we're here about manifestation, prayer. We want to walk on this earth with health, abundance, and great love in our hearts, and for all those people that we love. Back, this was quite a while ago, Reverend Jim from one of the Unity churches told me a story about how he changed how he thought about prayer and how that made all the difference in his practice. A set of practices instead of a set of beliefs makes us really understand that our perceptions are sometimes very wrong, especially about ourselves. They're very convoluted with stuff. So anyway, he said there was a young mom who came with her 10-year-old daughter, who was a person with Down syndrome, for 10 years, 9-10 years. And every Sunday in the line, as you finish, the minister sometimes stands in the back of the room and people greet the minister as they leave the sanctuary. Every Sunday that Karen showed up with her mom for 9, 10 years, Karen would get to Reverend Jim, grab his hand, pull him down, kiss his face, and say, "I love you, God." And Reverend Jim was like, oh, I was embarrassed, I was like, I'm not God, and that's just, I don't know, it's sweet, but yeah. And he goes, I understood why she might have thought I was God, because, her mom said, hey, this is a place where, this is God's house. This is a place where we listen to the words of God. And so automatically, Karen's thinking, hey, that's the dude speaking, must be God, right? And so he sat there, and what came to him in trying to understand why he was uncomfortable with that, the most glorious miracle for him came out. And he said, in 9 years, Karen thinking that I was God never once asked me for anything. Never asked me, why am I different? Why don't I have more money? Why, nothing. The only thing she wanted was a loving relationship with God. Think about our own lives with that. A loving relationship with God. That's what Karen did for 10 years. Nothing more. I believe when we're connected and do not feel separated, miracles appear. And the miracles are in the non-resistance and the surrender to something bigger, that we may not understand why we are standing where we're standing in life. Why are we standing in these challenges? Why are we standing in these circumstances? Our minds will take us down dark rabbit holes and slippery slopes. But I do truly believe that healing comes from the relationship we have with the connection of our own soul. That is done in silence, in meditation, in music, in prayer, and then in aligning our thoughts and our words and our actions. Every spiritual tradition talks about that. But what he said about Karen made a lot of sense to me. We focus so much on what we think we want rather than knowing what we have. And understanding this principle of religious science is that the possibility is already there. It's about birthing it. So how do we go about birthing it? It's about having a deep connection to God. A deep relationship, whether it's with nature, another, a book, a song, a poem, a small talk with a stranger. All those things seem, cool, nice. But as I said, the most dangerous people in the world are the people who feel disempowered and disconnected. And we see that every day you turn on the news, somebody is disempowered and disengaged from their own heart, from their own mind, and from their own soul. So horrific things happen. They have forgotten who they are. They surrendered into their despair and their anger, forgetting that it's all right here. Can you imagine, just think about, if we let go and surrender to all the things we think will make us happy and developed a stronger relationship with love and surrendered into that, what more possibilities would present themselves? What more healings would move through us? And also, the biggest mystery is that we somewhere know in this universal language of God without a tongue, this intuition that we are more than our birthless, deathless. We are more than our body because we are birthless and deathless. Meaning, we come into this birth with a breath, and we leave on this earth with our last breath. It's a beautiful journey. But we all know, all great traditions and all great religions talk about being more than just this. But this is where we are right here, standing here in the present moment. This is our journey. And yet we know there's something greater. And when we focus that energy, when we meditate, when we pray, when we become a part of the world as a person that is of service, we get back those goods tenfold, 1,000-fold. And this is what this community is about. It's about belonging for all those souls out there who've forgotten who they are. And I remember Reverend Deborah saying, the only prayer that ever needs to be prayed is for the healing of a sense of separation from God. That is the prayer. Because when we are connected, when we belong, all our dreams come true, because behind all the things we want is love, belonging, and connection. All of it. And I remember I told a story back in October, but it was really powerful for me when I was in Maui, and I met this young man from Aptos. And he used to play professional ball, and we spent a couple hours sharing and talking spiritual values, and he said he lives by this quote, and miracles have happened in his life out of it. And I was like, wow. And he finally told me what he did. But he connects very wealthy people on private jets. Like Rod Stewart called while we were there, and Stevie Nicks and a few other people. And his closest friend on the island is Jim Carrey. But he didn't tell me that right away. He told me that Jim told him a quote that he lives by, and it goes like this. Our most valuable asset is our ability to connect with others and all of life. It is the most valuable currency we have. And I think that when we water the seeds of compassion and love within ourselves, when we stop trying to think ourselves out of the crazy box that we put ourselves in, because they can be pretty crazy. Lots of shame and guilt. I was talking to someone this morning about some faiths try to prod people to God by shame and guilt. We know what Jesus said, what Muhammad said, what Moses said, what Buddha said, and in the Bhagavad Gita, that it's about surrendering into love, because it is the highest and the greatest force that moves us, so that we could connect with that ache in our soul to belong to ourselves and to be at home with who we are. Thank you.